On what was supposed to be the happiest day of her life, the drum stopped, the dancers froze, and the earth swallowed the bride. But what really happened that day? In a forgotten village where secrets sleep beneath the soil, this true African folktale will haunt you long after it ends. Stay with me, because the end will leave you breathless. In the land of Amun, where the sun dipped low like a shy bride hiding beneath her veil, and where the wind spoke in whispers that only the old could understand, there was once a story too terrifying for children and too painful for elders to repeat aloud. But like all stories with blood and spirit beneath their roots, it found a way to survive, pass from the trembling lips of fireside grandmothers to wide-eyed daughters who dared to ask, why do no weddings happen when the wind begins to cry? No one tells this tale lightly. You speak it only when the moon is full, when the air is still, and when your heart is brave. For this is the story of Edeora, the bride who vanished into the earth, not as a ghost, not as a sacrifice, but as a woman buried alive on the day she was meant to become a wife. They say Edeora was born when lightning kissed the edge of the sacred tree, the one that stands alone at the center of the village square. Her mother died bringing her into the world, and so the midwives called her Nwani is, the king's daughter, not because she was royal, but because the storm that shook the sky that night made even the chief bow his head. Her eyes were the color of the wet earth after rain, and her skin glowed like oiled mahogany. From her childhood, it was clear that the spirits had touched her, but whether in blessing or curse, no one knew. Edeora grew in beauty and boldness. She did not fear the dark. She laughed when others trembled. She spoke to animals as if they understood her, and sometimes, they seemed to answer. Her favorite place was the sacred tree. She'd lean her head against its bark, hum songs that didn't belong to her generation, and tell anyone who asked that the tree spoke to her. Most thought it was childhood imagination. But the elders watched her with weary eyes. Too much spirit, one said. She walks between worlds, whispered another. And yet, the people loved her. She was kind. She helped the old carry water, taught songs to the children, and healed wounded birds with nothing but leaves and whispered prayers. It was no surprise when Obina, the strongest and most admired hunter in the village, fell in love with her. He carved her name into the handle of his spear. He brought her lion teeth and goat skin sandals. He swore no other woman would share his fire. Their love was a song that played in the hearts of the villagers. And when he knelt beneath the sacred tree and offered her a ring carved from the same wood, even the wind stood still to listen. They set the wedding for the month of the winds. And that was when the trouble began. The month of the winds was a cursed time. Long ago, it was known as the season of brides, when marriages blossomed like okra in the rain. But everything changed the year Uzomoko disappeared. Her name is barely whispered now, buried beneath shame, anger, and silence. Some say she was betrayed by her groom, who married her sister instead. Others say she drowned herself beneath the sacred tree. What is known is that since her death, every bride who dared marry in the month of the winds met strange ends. One was found at the foot of the tree, eyes open but breathless. Another vanished before the vows were spoken, never seen again. A third choked on her own wedding cloth, though no one was near her. So the elders begged Edeora and Obine to wait. Marry after the winds sleep, they said. But Edeora, in her boldness, laughed. The tree knows me. The winds sing to me. No spirit will touch what is mine. And so, the date remained. The morning of the wedding dawned cold. Not normal cold, not Harmattan chill, but the kind that wraps around your bones and makes your soul want to run. Still, the village prepared. The women painted Edeora with sacred chalk. Her skin shimmered. Her hair was braided with beads. She wore a wrapper of red and gold, the colors of love and fire. The drums began early, echoing through the hills like a heartbeat from the gods. Obina stood waiting, his heart pounding louder than the talking drums. Edeora emerged. Gasps rose like birds from the crowd. She looked like a spirit bride, neither fully of this world nor the next. But she smiled, and the people clapped. She walked a path to Obina, past dancers, past elders, past children throwing petals. And then, the wind came. Not a breeze. Not a gust. A wail. A scream of something ancient and angry. The sky darkened. Chickens scattered. Babies cried. The sacred tree groaned. Edeora froze. Her feet rooted. Then, the earth trembled beneath her. A crack opened at her toes. Obina ran forward, but the ground split wider. The villagers screamed. Some ran. Others watched in horror as the soil beneath Edeora turned soft, as if it had become liquid. She looked down, tried to move, but her legs were gone. Sinking. Obina, she cried. He grabbed her hands, strong, desperate. But her body kept going down. The earth swallowed her waist. Then her chest. Don't let go, she screamed. I won't, he shouted. And still, she sank. Until all that remained were her fingers, and then, nothing. Gone. The drums stopped. Obina knelt there for what felt like an eternity, hands still outstretched toward the dead that had stolen his bride. The drums had stopped, but inside him, a louder rhythm pounded, one of rage, disbelief, and a grief so sharp it could cut a spirit in half. Someone tried to pull him up. He didn't move. The villagers began to murmur. First in whispers. Then in panic. She's gone. The ground swallowed her whole. It's the curse, the month of the winds. Obina rose slowly, his eyes hollow. He walked to the sacred tree and placed both palms on its rough bark. Where is she? He whispered. The tree said nothing. But the wind wept. The elders gathered quickly, forming a circle near the spot where Edeora had vanished. The chief was there, the priestess was summoned, and even the hunters had put down their spears. What we feared has come, said one elder. She ignored the warnings, said another. But Obina turned to them, voice trembling but fierce. You knew this could happen, and still you allowed the wedding. Silence. Then, the priestess stepped forward. Her name was Momanjidika. She was older than any living person in the village, her eyes cloudy but her voice strong. She reached down, scooped a handful of soil, sniffed it, then let it fall between her fingers. This ground is not dead, she said. It breathes. It remembers. Obina looked at her, desperation filling his voice. What does it want? She didn't answer immediately. She closed her eyes, drew 3 circles on her forehead with white chalk, and then dropped to her knees. A hum began to rise from her chest. Low. Deep. It wasn't a song, it was something older. A language of spirit. The villagers stepped back. The ground where Edeora had vanished began to pulse, as if a heart beat beneath it. Suddenly, the priestess gasped and fell backward. The elders rushed to her. What did you see? The chief asked. Her lips trembled. She's alive, but not here. She has been taken. Obina rushed forward. Where? How do I bring her back? The priestess looked at him. You cannot. Not with feet. Not with strength. She is beneath, below the roots, where spirits feed and memories rot. You mean, she's in the spirit world? He asked. Yes. And she will not return unless we tell the truth. The truth about what? And then, for the first time in decades, someone spoke the forbidden name. Uzuomoko. The villagers flinched. The priestess nodded slowly. Until her story is spoken, no bride will ever rest. Beneath the soil, deeper than worms dare to crawl, Edeora opened her eyes. She was not dead. She could feel breath in her chest. But the air was thick, sweet like rotting fruit, and her skin felt cold. She sat up. All around her was darkness, but not empty. It was watching. A soft blue glow rose in the distance. She stood, trembling, and walked toward it. Each step echoed, though there was no wall. No ground. No sky. Just silence and sadness. Then she saw her. A woman, floating, wrapped in a bridal wrapper the color of old blood. Her eyes were hollow. Her mouth, sewn shut with black thread. But still, she spoke, not with sound, but straight into Adora's mind. You married in the month of the winds. You defied the warnings. Adora's voice shook. Who are you? I was the first. I am the one they tried to forget. I am the pain they buried with silence. I am Uzoomoko. Edeora stepped back. I didn't mean to take your place. I didn't know. They never know. They never remember. So I remind them, one bride at a time. Edeora dropped to her knees. Please. Let me go back. Tell my story. That night, the villagers gathered at the sacred tree. Obina stood beside the priestess, her hand on his shoulder. Let it be told, she said. And so Obina spoke. It had happened nearly a century ago. Uzoomoko was once the most loved girl in the village, smart, kind, full of laughter. She was promised to a man named Ikin. But on the day of their wedding, Ikin married her younger sister instead, for her family offered more yams and cattle. Heartbroken and shamed, Uzoomoko stood beneath this very tree and whispered a curse. If my love is stolen, may joy be stolen from this tree forever. May every bride in the month of the winds feel what I felt. Then she hung herself from the sacred branch. The villagers buried her quietly. Her name was forbidden, her story erased. They hoped silence would keep the spirits away. But silence only made the curse grow stronger. Edeora watched as images of Uzoomoko's life played around her, laughter turned to betrayal, joy turned to rage, life turned to death. I see you, Edeora whispered. I feel your pain. Uzoomoko floated closer. You're the first to say that. Edeora reached out. I will tell your story. And with that, the spirit wind stopped. The silence shattered. The next morning, just before dawn, the sacred tree began to tremble. The ground where Edeora had vanished broke open gently, like a seed pod. And there she lay. Unconscious, wrapped in dirt and ash, but breathing. The villagers rushed to her. Obina lifted her in his arms, tears streaming down his face. Edeora opened her eyes slowly. Her voice was barely a whisper. She just wanted to be remembered. They say the earth remembers every tear that was never wiped, every name that was erased, and every love that was buried before it could bloom. Edeora did not return as the same girl who left. She returned as a woman who had walked through the land of forgotten souls, and come back with a truth that no one could deny. And from that day on, the month of the winds was no longer feared. Because one voice dared to speak for the silenced. One bride dared to remember. And one village dared to listen. But beware, should her name ever be forgotten again. The winds may rise once more. Would you have dared to marry in the month of the winds? Or would you have listened to the whispers of the tree? Windface, if this story gripped your soul, don't just keep it to yourself. Bell subscribe to African Stories and Mysteries. Thumbs up like this video to honor the voice of Uzoomoko. Repeat button and share this story with someone who still believes in the power of spoken truth. Because some stories are meant to be remembered.